Mental Health, brought to you by Barber Behavioral Health, a service of Barber National Institute.
We want to welcome in Erin Landini-Grogan. She is with Barber Behavioral Health, an outpatient therapist, as we continue our conversation about mental health. But Erin, welcome into First at 4.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and we have great topics each week that we talk about. This one is a little bit more serious, though. This is more of the serious mental health. Are they disorders?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We look at what's called serious mental illness, which does affect about 13 million Americans. And we're looking at diseases such as bipolar, schizophrenia, and psychosis.
Okay.
Those disorders that are very difficult for both the individual who is afflicted with them, but also the family.
Sure.
So let's start at the top. Let's start with bipolar disorder and what folks should look out for. What symptoms are we talking about here?
So bipolar is broken down into bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. And bipolar 1, you see more of those manic behaviors. And with that, you would see maybe excess spending, behaviors that are completely out of the norm of the behavior of the person. And when we say manic, I mean, it really is just as it sounds, very elated, very much, that very busyness, and really, looking at when they shift to a manic state, it's very noticeable. Those around the individual who know how they normally are will definitely be able to see that. With bipolar 2, you're going to see more of that depression, where the individual has those kind of classic depression symptoms. With bipolar, what we really want to see, and if your loved one may be afflicted with it, are those highs, those lows, behavior that is out of the norm. Also, the inability to complete their daily tasks, work, taking care of themselves, interactions. They might isolate a little more. So really, if you look at age-wise, we want to say that in late teens, early 20s is when you would really start to see the onset of those.
Okay.
Those really early 20s would be that time to notice.
And all of these need a doctor diagnosis, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I would encourage, if you suspect yourself or someone else, to start with your primary care doctor.
Okay.
Because then they can refer you to a psychiatrist who can help.
And medication and therapy can help.
Absolutely. Medication, and I was just saying that medication has come so far, and medication plus therapy plus social support for the individual. But I want to say too, for families, if you have a loved one afflicted with any of these disorders, there are resources out there to help you too.
Definitely. Let's talk about schizophrenia. How do we break down that disorder?
Sure. When we look at schizophrenia, it's not as prevalent maybe as bipolar or other disorders, but what you'll see is a marked change from reality. So they'll either exhibit things like hallucinations, where they're hearing and seeing things, or delusions, and that's a complete removal from reality. Basically, that they're believing things that really aren't accurate. And once again, we're looking at that late teens, early 20s for that onset age.
Okay, and what about psychosis? How is that different than
Sure, psychosis is very similar to the symptoms of schizophrenia.
Okay.
We often look at psychosis, which can be attached to bipolar, depression, postpartum depression, and that's a marked change from what is actually reality.
Yeah. So much information here, so much to unpack, but if you're looking for help, Barber Behavioral Health is a great first step. And there's a phone number there if you or someone you love is in need of some help. It's a great place to start.
Absolutely, as is the Mental Health Association, but start with your primary care doctor.
And sometimes it's all about just recognizing those symptoms and knowing something just might not be exactly right. But
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for being with us today and breaking it down for us.
We'll be right back.